Welcome to today's episode of Recliner Reviews. Today we are talking about...
Life moves pretty fast.
You're crazy!
If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
And Ferris Bueller's Day Off is pretty much to this day with a generation that didn't grow up in the 80s or even maybe even the 90s. I don't know. I don't talk to kids born in the 2000s. But it seems like it still resonates with a lot of people, even though playing hooky, I feel like it's gotten harder to do in the last 30 years.
Oh, for sure. I mean, but it's still, like all of the ideas in the movie kind of maintain to what people want to do. Like they want to cut class, they want to go
That's
on
why
an
people
adventure.
like it. It's like the ideal of it. 'Cause did you ever skip school? You can
Once
say
or
it now.
twice.
How old were you?
In high school, like end high school, because that's when we could have a car on campus.
Yeah.
And so
Did your parents know?
No.
How did you elaborate, make that scheme happen? Did you call in sick or anything?
No, you just you walk out, you get in the car, and you go.
They don't follow. They don't.
No.
See, it was much different when I was in high school. We had lanyards. You had to scan in and out of the school. There was a ton of security involved.
Oh yeah, I mean we had a security desk up at the front of the school where when you came in late, you had a doctor's appointment or whatever, you would have to go and check in and be like, oh, I'm here. And they'd be like, okay, great, you're here, and they don't care.
So
but when you're a junior or senior, you could have a car, and if you had a car on campus, you were lucky enough to win the lottery, they had a lottery to get a parking
that
permit,
too, yeah.
and you got one on campus. If you walked out the door, as long as nobody was like, hey, you can't walk out the door, that would be the only way they would catch you. You could literally just walk out the door and...
It's a way different era back in the 60s when you went to school. It was way different for me. But, so you didn't have to go through these elaborate pranks of having a dummy in the bed and having your friend do a voice of impersonation to the principal and stuff. But like you said, it's the ideal of it, of people, this is all we want to do. And the scam involved in it is so much fun. Just taking your friend's dad's car, calling your girlfriend out of school and all that stuff. But when it really boils down to it, it's still a fun movie. It's seen a gazillion times. It's a blast. It's also probably in the top 5 Chicago movies, which I want to get your opinion on for sure. Ferris is kind of a shitty friend. And his parents are kind of dumb.
Yeah. I mean, I got a lot to... There's a whole line of thinking. I want to get through the movie first, but I got something on that for you.
On him being the shitty friend?
On Ferris being a shitty friend, yeah. So,
go ahead.
But first, let's just talk about some of the kind of interesting notes or facts about this. Is you mentioned Chicago movie. It's a Chicago movie, but it's only a Chicago movie insofar as it's a bunch of suburban kids going to the city.
But that's the Chicago experience. Well,
definitely for Lollapalooza, right?
Yes,
it's you get on the Metro and you go down with your...
Even if you're not a teen from Naperville that went down to the city on the Metro, you're somebody in the city that knows about the Naperville kids and you don't like them. So everybody knows that. Everybody knows the suburban teen kid.
Yeah. And I would say probably in my top 5, Ferris Bueller probably lands in the top 5. Although again, because of the setting, I have to differentiate, right? If you're talking about Chicago movies, it's got to be set in the city of Chicago. It can't be from the suburbs, which is why Breakfast Club doesn't make it because Breakfast Club is in the suburbs. It's not in the city of Chicago.
Right.
And Home Alone technically could make it because it's set in the city of Chicago, even though it's filmed not in the city of Chicago.
Right. But this is mostly in the city.
This is with the exception of the high school, which is Glenbrook North.
Yeah.
It's in the city of Chicago.
But this speaks to a marginalized group of white, upper middle class suburban kids that for fun used to take the Metro to the city, and this movie speaks to me.
It does?
Yeah.
Just going
Don't
into the city.
discount that group of people.
I won't. I promise I won't discount that group of people. But I do want to say, right before we started filming this, we both quoted 9 times, right?
9 times.
This movie is so quotable. There are so many quotes
9 times.
that in my daily life, I'm dropping these quotes, I wrote down Ferris Bueller, you're my hero.
Yeah.
It is so choice. And then I love the line. It's such a throwaway line too. But when Rooney is at the pizza place and he's talking to the pizza guy,
score, yeah.
and he goes, it's the Cubs playing. Who's winning? He goes, nothing. He goes, who's winning?
The Bears.
The Bears.
My dad and I quote that all the time. And then anytime somebody says, I'm like texting with somebody and the number 9 pops up, I always send the Rooney GIF 9 times.
9 times.
Which is 9 times that alarming? I didn't miss a lot of school.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess the question is like every school had different, or I'm sure now it's like really different, but like they have different rules where it's like, I mean, even thinking about like in college, right? Like if your professor took attendance and you like, I had some professors that were laid it out in their syllabus. It was like, if you miss 2 classes, fine, you're okay. But if you miss like 5 classes, you drop a letter grade. If you miss 10 classes, you drop 2 letter grades or something like that.
It was usually 7 absences per class, and boy, did I use those.
But what the hell? Yeah, I'm with you.
But 9 times doesn't seem that alarming for missing school. But nonetheless, Rooney, that actually almost makes him like more of a villain. And we're going to talk about this when we talk about all these like high school and college movies, how they make the principal or the dean the villain. And Rooney's such a good one because, especially with the mustache and the hair and everything, he just kind of looks buffoonish while also kind of seeming evil. And his paranoia about Ferris, the fact that it's not too extreme, but it is justified, makes him like the perfect villain for this. He's such a good. All the characters are actually really.
Well, I
good.
mean, he was so good at being an asshole and a creep because he is an asshole and a creep because he is a sex offender.
Yeah.
But what the hell?
And he looks the part too.
Yeah. So I mean, it all works out, right?
And he's almost basically accused of being a sex offender by Ferris's sister in the movie.
Yes,
so.
for sure.
I am very cute, I am very alone, and I'm very protective of my body. I do not want it violated or killed, all right?
So
Irony.
good job casting, Hollywood.
Yeah, right.
You knew before anybody even knew. So
Right.
just a couple of other little like tidbits before we dive into the movie is so the Ferrari isn't a real Ferrari. Like it was too expensive to rent a Ferrari, so they had somebody build this Ferrari.
That's hilarious.
And so it's like probably like a Pinto engine like on a Ferrari body or something like that. They threw in a lot of like Easter eggs, which is a real cool thing, like at this time in particular, where they touch on other movies that like either the actors are in or the director is a part of, and so like there's on the license plates, there's one that's VCTN, which is for vacation. Mm-hmm. There's one for TBC for the Breakfast Club. One MMOM for Mr. Mom, and 4 FBDO, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Wow.
So little things to look at, but like Hughes is, I guess he's big on this, like with the Easter eggs and like the license plates and things like that, and even on the Ferrari's one is nervous because. Like that's a trait of Cameron and his family is that they're nervous. Like that's just I don't know. Let's just get into the rest of it because I'm sure a lot of these other things will like pop in. Other than the only other thing I want to say is that before they settled on the real Ferris Bueller, let me give you some names of some people that they thought they were going to cast as Ferris Bueller. Rob Lowe.
I can see that actually.
John Cusack.
I'm not a John Cusack fan at all.
Now keep in mind this is early 80s, this is in the 80s, not early 80s, this is 86. Jim Carrey.
I'm sure his career trajectory would be totally different. I don't know if he'd end up being like in all these slapstick. Well, maybe he still would be, but like
he was in that movie Once Bitten, I think is what it was called. There's an 80s movie called Once Bitten where he gets bitten by a vampire and he becomes a vampire.
Never saw it.
Well, it's not a very good movie.
Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah. Johnny Depp. Tom Cruise.
I don't ever want to see it again.
Well, that kind of goes along with what's it called?
Risky Business.
Risky Business. So yeah, I can see that too.
Robert Downey Jr.
All these guys are like short, brown-haired fellas.
Uh-huh.
Like, this is like I've noticed a theme here.
And
all
the one that probably would have been the closest to all of this, Michael J. Fox.
Okay.
I could see that. Like I could see
I could
Michael J.
actually
Fox.
see all of them, but I'm thinking about their career trajectory. Like, if any of those guys would have still had, like, they all had big careers. But I wonder if Matthew Broderick doesn't get this role. I don't know what he was like in 1986.
I think
He
I
had
don't remember. There was
significant
Biloxi
roles.
Blues he was in.
He had a few big ones, but this is his biggest one.
Oh,
Whereas
yeah,
like
for sure.
Tom Cruise, Jim Carrey, like a few other guys you mentioned had a bigger movie than Ferris Bueller.
That reminds me, like going through the names reminds me of, you remember the Saturday Night Live sketch where they did the this is like the 2000s, early 2000s I think, where they did the screen tests for Star Wars, and they had like all of the, like Richard Dreyfuss and all of the other. I would love to see like what a Ferris Bueller would look like with Rob Lowe. You know, like what would it look like with Jim Carrey? Like how different of a movie would that be?
I think it might be the same movie. I just wonder like what happens to those people. And now I'm going through this butterfly effect in my mind because Matthew Broderick, I talk about this for a second. He's been in a crap ton of other stuff, and some stuff successful, some stuff not successful. But he is most identifiable with this role still, even though he's much older now and has been in a million other things, and I think has produced and directed and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He's still identifiable by that. Tom Cruise, you can point to like 6 movies. So you put him in Top Gun, Risky Business. Like there's so many different movies you can say like that's a Tom Cruise movie. But Matthew Broderick, like this is his one gigantic role that everyone identifies him with.
Yeah.
Even when you see him now with gray hair and his little glasses and stuff, I still think of Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you.
Yeah. So back to the thing about Ferris being a shitty friend, I think his parents are kind of stupid. That's something that's kind of, I've said like this movie still resonates with a lot of people, but I've talked to a few people that have said like the one thing that's kind of cringy in the movie is that Ferris is kind of an ass, like subtly an asshole. And it's still fun. It doesn't ruin the movie for me at all, but when you really think about it, like I saw this a million times as a kid, that's never crossed my mind, but now watching it as an adult, Ferris is kind of a jackass. And I've gone through high school. If I had a friend like Ferris and I'm like sick at home and stuff, and he's dragging me out of bed and making me steal my dad's car to go spend the day downtown. First of all, driving in the city, driving my dad's nice car in the city. That guy's a jerk. I don't want to be friends with him.
Well, so this is what I was alluding to when I said there's a theory about Ferris, right? So, and Ferris being a shitty friend. The theory is this movie is actually just a fever dream.
So Cameron's? I've heard this actually, yeah.
It is Cameron's fever dream, and Ferris does not exist. Ferris is a figment of his own imagination, and it's a way that Cameron is coping with his shitty relationship with his father, and he invents Ferris in his head in this fever dream while he's sick because of the whole thing with him being sick as a way to confront his father.
That actually, I mean, that makes it almost a better movie. I think that's hilarious.
You know, like you have a scene where at the end it's Cameron and the dad, and it's like, how could you do this? How could you? But it was Ferris, and there's like nobody there, right? Like it's just.
It's like a Fight Club kind of thing almost.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the Hey Arnold theory. I don't know if you've heard this.
I don't think so.
Where, and the premise in Hey Arnold is that Arnold's parents are dead, and this is the real thing. That Arnold's parents are no longer with us, so he's raised by his grandma and grandpa in the cartoon. But there's a theory that he doesn't have parents, or he does have parents. They are the grandma and grandpa, and they had Arnold so old in life that he came out with this deformed head, the football-shaped head. And to cope with having a football-shaped head, Arnold sees everybody else is having deformed heads too. Like Gerald has the long head, and what's his name? Arnold has the weird, or not Arnold, whatever the guy's name, I'm blanking on it. But Helga, everybody has a weird shaped head. And that's his way of coping with having a football-shaped head because he was deformed because his parents fucked so late in life. Same thing.
I like that. I mean, look, I love these alternate theories, these alternate universes. Like even, you know, going towards what's going on with Cameron, there's an alternate ending to this movie. And the alternate ending, the alternate ending is that Cameron's dad kills him. Like straight up murders him.
Wait, they filmed this?
No, they didn't film it.
Okay,
but like,
I
it was
think you
like
said for real.
No, but it like they wrote it.
Oh, okay.
And then, like they didn't film it, but like they had this like the alternate ending is Cameron gets murdered by his father for wrecking the Ferrari. And that's
pretty funny. If that was like a dark, like the last scene is Ferris and Sloan at Cameron's funeral, that would have been hilarious.
But but Ferris doesn't exist, so it would be like.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I would watch that. I would watch the hell out of that movie.
That's still funny to me, unless it's like a depressing thing like Click or something. But that's
how this movie breaks the fourth wall.
yeah, which is something that usually annoys me, but it doesn't really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a way that you can relate then with Ferris and
Yeah.
the idea of cutting school is this. He's actually talking to you.
Yeah.
So.
Otherwise, he'd be even more of a dick.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
I also want to note at the beginning of the movie, right? Ferris is faking sick, right? And then the parents go away, and then what's the first thing he does? He turns on the TV.
Yeah.
What's on the TV? MTV.
Oh yeah.
That is 100% not the case. I don't know anybody that when they were sick and had a sick day, that they didn't turn on The Price is Right.
They bought it.
I was just gonna say that.
Like
There's always The Price is
MTV,
Right.
like okay, yeah, I get it. It's hip, and probably MTV probably paid money and was like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
put MTV. But like, I'm watching The Price is Right, 100% Bob Barker.
Yeah. Was that when you were sick as a kid?
When I was sick as a kid.
When I was sick as a kid, I watched The Price is Right.
I mean, I feel like that was a rite of
Do your
passage.
kids, when they're sick, watch The Price is Right? Is this
I don't think my kids have seen The Price is Right yet.
you gotta
so,
turn them on to it, even though
Yeah.
it's the Drew Carey version.
Yeah, I mean, they're still a little too young, I think, to appreciate The Price is Right. You wonder, it's the city of Chicago, and it's a Chicago movie, and you see Cameron wearing a Detroit Red Wings jersey.
I was always wondering that, yeah.
So,
But it makes it more iconic, I think.
I mean, I think that the Chicago Blackhawks, the Blackhawk logo is one of the most iconic logos.
It is, but I think him wearing the Red Wings jersey stands out because it's like.
For some reason it does, but the reason why is because John Hughes actually grew up in Michigan.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
And so.
What's his infatuation with Chicago then?
I don't know. I mean, he grew up in Michigan. I think he was born here.
Okay.
In Chicago, and so like there's a tie to Chicago, but he grew up in Michigan, and so like you grow up someplace, you become tied to those sports teams. Yeah. Another movie that we're going to be doing is Blues Brothers. And, in Blues Brothers, when they're getting the band back together and they go to the restaurant, right, the fancy French restaurant, that's in this movie too. Same movie,
Yeah.
same one.
Sausage King of
Shake
Chicago.
Wee.
You're Abe Froman,
That's right. I'm Abe Froman.
the Sausage King of Chicago.
Yeah, that's me.
That's actually one of the funniest scenes in the movie too. I'd argue the Abe Froman Sausage King of Chicago.
the phone part.
phone part, yeah.
The phone part is pretty good. I mean, it's an iconic thing. In the parade scene, they have Twist and Shout. During this, I don't know which parade it's supposed to be because I don't really remember any parades being in that area of like downtown. This is actually like straight downtown.
I've thought about that too because you and I both used to work in that area, and I can't picture a parade going down like LaSalle or whatever street that goes down.
They got Twist and Shout, and McCartney signed off to have it be Twist and Shout, but he hated that version of Twist and Shout because he said
hated the movie.
Because he said there's too much brass. Because they have the band, like the marching band playing Twist and Shout.
But I think that makes it stand. I enjoy it.
Yeah,
I
he
think
hated
that makes
it.
it fun.
He hated it.
That's
Maybe he's a stick in the mud. Maybe it was just like they caught him on the wrong day or something. But
Yeah.
he hated it.
Oh, I think it's way better actually.
I think one of the other things that we talk about a lot is these iconic movies and whether or not they do them as they do sequels, and how thankfully for many of them there are no sequels. Unfortunately, one of my favorites, Coming to America, had a sequel.
Caddyshack 2,
Caddyshack
Hangover 2,
2.
Hangover Part 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like it ruins the brand.
Yes.
Because I think very rarely will you find a second one
Major League 2, Major League 3, Back to the Minor. Yeah, there's
that is as good as the first one.
Yeah.
But they planned a second one with Ferris being in college.
Right.
But thankfully they canceled.
That would have been a horrible movie. It would have been a retread of the first one, just like if you've seen Hangover 2 or Hangover 3, it's the same plot as Hangover 1.
Yep.
Just rearranged differently.
I mean, that's I feel like what they do. I mean, again, like Coming to America and Coming to America.
Yeah.
it's literally the same story.
Yeah. This is like a singular driven plot. You have to do a completely different thing with the same characters to pull it off.
Yeah.
Maybe they should do it now, since I just said like Matthew Broderick I still see Ferris Bueller, even though he's like a 60-year-old man. Maybe they should do it with him as an adult.
Maybe. I mean,
It would be
but then
so
again,
ridiculous that it'd be kind of funny.
Yeah. What, like he skips work or something like that?
Actually, it would suck. Never mind. Don't listen to me.
Definitely don't do that, Hollywood. Please don't do that. Like, yeah, absolutely not.
What's your final verdict on the movie?
I don't know. I just want to say life comes at you fast.
There's another quote.
Yeah, there's another quote. And it's probably like, I have a feeling that in commencement speeches in high school and college in the 80s and 90s after this came out, like that was probably
I'm sure
like
that was
in
brutal.
every valedictorian.
Like for me, The Hangover came out when I was in high school, and that movie was quoted all the time in high school. I feel like if you were in high school from 86 to 90, this was like done to death.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, like I like this movie. I'll watch it.
I love this movie.
On a fairly regular basis. Again, it's very quotable. It's very enjoyable. It's like, I don't know, it's nostalgia for me. I mean, because, I don't know, I grew up watching this movie.
Right.
So,
Right. But for me, like my parents wanted me to watch it because they loved it, and like I haven't talked to a kid from 2010, but I think I imagine this still resonates with anybody.
yeah, I would have to imagine, yeah.
Yeah, thumbs up on this.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess the score first? Or want me to go first?
So I'm going to guess IMDb-wise that this is going to, just for nostalgia's factor, I'm going to give it a 7.6. I think it's 7.6.
I'm gonna go a little bit lower. 7.2.
7.8.
Ooh! That was going to be my
high.
first guess. I was actually going to
Wow.
go 7.8, and then I went 7.6. That's, wow. Well, impressive still. I mean, again, it's one of those, like, classic movies. So, yeah. Ferris Bueller.